Thank you for joining me for another Beyond Woman Conversations. I am Jacqueline Walker Johnson, your host, and my co-host is Misha Loban Clark. Misha is missing today, but joining us on the conversation is Simone Blackwood, a gerontologist. We're discussing dementia and how this impacts women. This is a topic that you want to listen in on, so stay tuned.
Talking to Simone Blackwood. And our topic today is, our aim is really to bring awareness to the topic of dementia and for us to discuss how it affects women, at what point are we at risk, and just generally to, as I said before, create the awareness and bring to mind this matter of dementia and what we as women should look out for, if we should look out for anything at all. So Simone is a gerontologist who specializes in dementia care strategies. She developed the behavioral approach to dementia, and Simone works with families and their aged parents and loved ones, supporting them as they traverse the road of dementia. So Simone, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and I want you to start pretty much with just an intro of who you are, how you got into the field, the reason behind, you getting into the field, and how has it been so far?
Okay. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on your platform, Jacqueline. As you would have mentioned, my name is Simone. I am based in Trinidad, and I am a gerontologist. I have been in the nursing field for the past 10 years, and after graduating with my BSN, I decided to branch off into gerontology. The ward I was working on, it's a pretty long story, but I'll shorten it in the effort of time.
Okay.
There was an influx of aged persons coming in. That's a surgical ward, and of course, each persons are prone to falling, and there were a lot of persons not paying attention to lapses in memory and other different outbursts, and a lot of persons, even professionals like myself, were attributing it to just the person being old. And so I sought to dig deeper into that, and there I learned more about gerontology, more about the aspects of aging, more about dementia, and it intrigued me a bit, and I felt it was sorely lacking, and so I decided to further pursue studies into the field of gerontology. Yeah.
Okay. How has it been? Has the interest remained? Has it increased? What is it like? What is it like operating in such a field?
It has increased a lot. One, because it is not something a lot of persons are aware of. A lot of persons mix up geriatric caregivers with gerontologists, the physicians, geriatric physicians. A lot of persons don't know the difference. So it piqued my interest a bit more to make sure that people have the relevant information and to let persons know that there is support out there, because a lot of persons, when having conversations with them and explaining what I do, they say, I wish I met you when my grandmother was alive, or I wish I knew of you when I was struggling with my family who had the condition. And so it's going really great. The challenge is just explaining to people so that they could grasp the concept of what it is. But it has been good thus far, and I have been learning a lot on the journey, working with different dementia patients. So I myself have been learning while I am educating others.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I've always thought about, and it stems from the fact that, and I'm not calling anything down on myself, but there are times when I have, as you had mentioned not too long ago, lapses in memory.
Mm-hmm.
And, being aware of people who have Alzheimer's, I'm not so sure if there is a thin line between Alzheimer's and dementia, or I don't know how the relation works. So maybe you can enlighten me where that is concerned. And,
Sure.
and I mentioned the lapses in memory because when I see those people like going through Alzheimer's and so on, you wonder if lapses in memory is an onset. So we want to talk about that. But before we talk about that, tell me, is there a difference between how does Alzheimer's and dementia relate?
Okay, so I'm happy you asked that question because often persons use the term interchangeably. So I'm really happy that you brought this question to the table. Now, Alzheimer's and dementia are two totally different things. In the sense, dementia is more of an umbrella term that we would use where the person will have lapses in memory, cognitive decline, mild cognitive decline, as we call MCI. The persons would have a certain motor skills decline as well. However, there are different types of dementia, right? And Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. That type is more prevalent, however, and as we go on into the conversation, we will speak about why it's more prevalent in women than men. But with Alzheimer's, now you have a lot of different symptoms coming into play. So you have apathy. So one of the early onset is not necessarily memory loss as people think, because persons tend to think, I am having a lapse in judgment. I think I'm having Alzheimer's.
I'm telling you, it worries me.
Yeah. But it's not. I mean, it's a human thing to remember and forget. It has to do with all different types of memory,
And the things that we have to do with, we have to do daily, the many things we have to do daily. Mm-hmm.
Of course. And, anybody, I myself keep a list because sometimes it's so long, I would forget, So it's not, while memory loss is a key factor, it's not one of the factors that I would put on the top of the list because anybody could forget something. What I look at is apathy. I look at the person's interest. I look at their interest in regular activities that they used to do before. I look at their interest in, the environment, how they react to their family members. We have different tests that we do, the SIS, the verbal fluency. I would listen to how you speak, and mixing up different things, not forgetting, but mixing up information. I think that's one of the high on the list as well, especially if the person was known for being sharp, always on the ball. So that is an indicator for me. And impaired judgment, we find this with persons with frontotemporal dementia a lot. The behavioral changes would happen. You would see the aggression, you would see signs of anxiety, you would see them getting, I can't diagnose Alzheimer's. Nobody can diagnose Alzheimer's. It's only diagnosed after death, right? So.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
How is it that we hear that people are living with Alzheimer's?
Because you see, it has a lot to do with the proteins and of course the proteins within the brain. And if we were to do an invasive test like that, the person would die while probably doing the test and not actually die of Alzheimer's, So we have the symptoms, we have the clinical symptoms that we look at, we have the behavioral symptoms that we look at. Hence, I coined the behavioral approach to dementia because that is one of the things that is prevalent, the behavioral changes, right? So with Alzheimer's, besides the confusion, I look at the behavioral changes. In particular, is the person mild-mannered? If they were mild-mannered, what are the differences that you as a family member is noticing? Are they speaking louder? Are they shouting? If it's a good Christian person, are they now using profanities? Stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, so those
There's
are some
an aggression that comes with Alzheimer's.
Yes, the three
and I
A's.
thought that, well, now that you're explaining it to me and you're saying that Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, is that it?
It is, yes.
Right, because in my mind, I always thought that, okay, Alzheimer's might be the milder form, and dementia is the one where, you have all of that anger coming out.
No,
Okay.
dementia we can say not mild so much because there are different types of dementia. We even
Right.
have mixed dementia, we have senile dementia. So I would say if I would probably say dementia could be milder. Um, Alzheimer's is progressive and there are
Okay.
stages to it. There are like 6 or 7 stages to it leading up to death because there's no cure. And so it's pretty sad, but we look at the stages and we work with them as much as we can as they venture into each stage of Alzheimer's.
So I want to get to the matter of women and Alzheimer's, but I also want to ask this question before we go there, based on what you just said. So people, do they die from Alzheimer's, or they die from naturally or some other company? Can people die from Alzheimer's?
That is such a tricky question.
All right, we'll leave that alone. Really?
No, but I want to answer, and here's why I want to answer. A lot of persons get tricked or sucked into different falsehoods that there is a cure and they can take this and this will happen. But because it's progressive and because it's a cognitive disorder, now remember, our brain, everything we do stems from our brain. It stems from the signals in our brain working together with, what happens is that with cognitive declines and with the plaque that inhibits the brain, that causes the decline, what happens, eventually the brain stops working. And when the brain stops working, your body stops working.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I should say that we die from it, but I could say that persons would die as a result of the effects of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair. All right, but how serious is it as it relates to women? And based on the fact that you're in the field, is it that Alzheimer's affect a certain type of woman, or is there a particular age that it comes on? Can young people have Alzheimer's? Just help me out with that.
Sure. Okay, so let me take the last question, please, with the age group. What we have found is that because of their different types of dementia, and Alzheimer's fall under dementia, you would not find persons with early onset Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's affects persons usually over the age of 60 or so. However, with dementia, we have early onset dementia, where we would find that due to a lot of external factors, persons can have early onset dementia. So a woman, for example, can have dementia as young as the age of 34. Yes? While persons with Alzheimer's, much older, because again, Alzheimer's is more progressive and it's more gradual. So it's very serious, very, very serious. And based on the statistics I'll share, now the Caribbean doesn't have, for some reason, we're not big where statistics is concerned. What I can say is the majority of, we use statistics from the USA, we use statistics from the UK, and we do some case studies as well. What I can say, working in the field, especially in the Caribbean, 90% of my clientele are women. So they are women like you, women like me, who have parents that they are caring for that have Alzheimer's.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. That in itself is a serious concern because I think within the USA, I'll just use their statistics because that's what it's available. I think they have like 5 million persons with Alzheimer's, right? 3.5 million of those persons are women.
Wow.
And over 70% of the persons doing the caring are women.
Right.
And so it's putting a strain on the family. The caregiver role in itself could be a very stressful one, especially for persons or women who have their own families, their own jobs, their own kids. It comes like you're raising 2 separate families.
Right, right.
You know, caring for one family, how tedious it can be.
I know.
Yes, it's tedious, it's really hectic, especially if you have young kids. But now let's put in someone who has behavioral issues in the mix.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work out for a woman who is now what we call, she's within the sandwich generation because she's caring for two families, right? It affects them emotionally, psychologically, financially. They are burdened, and there is not much sports groups, even families. Sometimes we would find families tend to distance themselves because they can't handle the behavioral issues. They don't know how to deal with it. And sometimes they will hire an external caregiver.
Which is what I was going to say to you. At that point, you find them placing the persons in homes that have that kind of specialization. And then persons will look on and think that, oh my gosh, that is so cruel. But if you're not in the situation,
of course,
then you don't know what the person's dealing with.
I tell persons, I give advice. If that is what works for you, you do it.
Mm-hmm.
If you cannot, not everybody is trained to handle this on an everyday basis. I limit my clientele to 3 patients a day. 3 in an entire day. Because it can be tedious working with one person. Remember, that person has different mood swings. Then it would be a task sometimes trying to get them to do certain things. And I can say, if you've seen a case, someone's mother, what I mean, not yours, but someone's mother,
yes, I understand,
had Alzheimer's, and to think I am going to get it. It's not necessary.
It's not hereditary.
No.
Okay.
Some would say it is, but I really do not believe it is. I believe lifestyle has a lot to do with it. Because again, there are persons in their 60s who are suffering with Alzheimer's, and then there are persons in their 90s who are not. Mm-hmm. So what is the, what the line that we're drawing there means lifestyle has a lot to do with how we age as women. Yeah, it has a lot to do with how we age. So with that being said, there was another question, and what was the other question?
I'm sorry, I probably asked you like a million things in one, but let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this. You mentioned the whole matter of lifestyle, mm-hmm. right? And you also said that women are at a greater risk. When you look at the statistics, more mm-hmm. women. Would you say that it is because of the fact that we have so much on our plate? So what are some of the things that you think causes us to be more at risk than men?
Well, we have the biological factor coming into play there. We also have societal factors, because as I mentioned earlier, we have different things bombarding us left, right, and center.
Exactly.
And we are stretching ourselves really thin and trying to be there for everyone as the mother role or the woman role.
So can we sum that up as stress?
Well, yes.
Okay.
And with that, societal rules, with that societal factors, it now leads into the lifestyle rules, because a simple scenario is you come from work, you have a demanding job. When you come from work, you have kids. When you deal with the kids, then you have the husband. And then with the husband, then you have your parent who has Alzheimer's. Where are you getting time between this time for self-care? Where are you getting time to get up, prepare something healthy, to go exercise? I mean, you have to be really disciplined to do something like that. And let us face it, let us be honest. There are people going through life right now and just barely getting by, literally creeping,
especially now,
especially with this whole COVID-19, right? So I think the societal factors lead to the lifestyle factors that causes us now to place ourselves as women in the category where we are putting ourselves at risk for other things, not only Alzheimer's, but chronic illnesses and other stuff, because we are touching ourselves, caring for everybody else, and women are not taking care of themselves. They find it hard to say no sometimes. They find it hard to, seek other help because of the judgmental factors, communication barriers, different barriers with other women who they think may not understand what they're going through. And so they tend to be reserved and keep what they're feeling inside, you know. And again, that is putting them at risk for different lifestyle issues and Alzheimer's. It sounds far-fetched, but it is. It is.
And that is the information that is out there in terms of the risk, the way in which it comes on. Okay.
It is there. Again, lack of exercise, what we eat, having a poor diet is one of the things that have been linked heavily to Alzheimer's.
Wow.
Heavily, a poor diet. Diets high in sugar and diets high in fat. So that's why you see dietitians and nutritionists would advocate for eating omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids to help with your cognition and to help keep you sharp. The use of B vitamins. In fact, there is a type of dementia that is linked to a B vitamin deficiency. So these are different things, you know, taking supplements, getting regular exercise, recreational time away from your family, and socializing with other people. These are all things that women need to take into
consideration. I'm listening to you, and everything points back to self-care.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything
and we neglect it. We neglect it a lot.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
And
So,
regular, you know, I have to add, get your yearly checkups. We neglect that as well. And so a simple routine blood test can tell us you're deficient in vitamins, you're deficient in something. Simple blood test, you know, can help you on your journey to becoming a better youth, I say, and help you cope with what is to come. Because once a person or woman has family members with Alzheimer's, I mean, I'm not the bearer of bad news, but with the progression will come challenges, and you have to prepare yourself for those challenges. And mentally is one of the ways, mentally and emotionally, you have to prepare yourself for those challenges that will come. And for you to be in a position to face those challenges head on, you need to position yourself, have proper routines and self-care in place, and make sure mentally that you're fit to face those challenges and, you know, work with what's coming, because it will be difficult. I can tell you, it's very difficult. Yeah.
I mean, I don't have anybody who is close to me that has to deal with anyone with Alzheimer's. And, you know, we started out talking about dementia, but based on your explanation, it's okay that we have transitioned and we're talking more specifically about Alzheimer's, which is a type of dementia. The only thing I remember is that I have an uncle who had Alzheimer's. He's no longer with us.
Right.
But the first time I saw him, and I think he's the only person that I've seen with Alzheimer's.
Right.
He was just so peaceful. I mean, it brought me back to this whole thing of once a man, twice a child.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember talking to my dad about it, and he made such a profound statement. He was like, he looks that way because he doesn't have anything to worry about. You know, that's why he looks that way, because when I saw him, he was like a child. I mean, he's an old person, but he looked very young.
Young, right.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't even know why I'm bringing up that. I'm just putting a little bit of humor, not
right,
into the whole mix to say that.
Yeah. I mean, humor is one of the things that kind of would get you through a day.
Yeah.
If you with a patient that has, or a loved one that has Alzheimer's, you would see them doing things and you would find, well, that's pretty odd, that's quite strange. And so you would find a humor in things that, you know, that they would do.
No, that's humor, but it's just the wow, you know, that kind of thing. It's the wow.
You know, it's like a quirky behavior, like strange behaviors, and you find it to be so odd. So it's not like you're laughing at the person, but sometimes you're just, you know, finding humor in what they may be doing at the point in time. So it's not laughing at them. But I just want to say that persons with Alzheimer's, they do feel sometimes sometimes, especially in the early stages. In the later stages, not so much. But one of the reasons I've learned that they are aggressive so much is because they sense that they are losing their identity. They sense that things are not the same. And so
Yes.
they start to get upset when persons ask, don't you remember we had to do this? Don't you remember? How come you're forgetting this? And this is something you always do. And so the person themselves, sometimes they can't explain it, they can't verbalize it, but they can sense that something is wrong. And so they start to lash out. It is a way of them trying to figure out what is really happening to me, And so I wouldn't say that they don't feel. I think
I think, you know what? I remember when I visit, I'm going back to my uncle because he's the only experience that I have. So I remember when we visited with him, and he wasn't aggressive at all. There was nothing aggressive about his behavior. He was very calm, doing his thing. I think he was having lunch or something, and being the inexperienced person that I am when it comes to dealing with people with Alzheimer's, I said to him, you don't remember so and so and whatever. And I mean, I saw the look in his eyes. I saw the look in his eyes, and I was like, oh my God, even now I'm thinking about it and I feel some sort of way because I realize that he's trying, but then I see in his eyes that, oh God, I don't. And he kept saying, I soon remember. You know what I mean? So I understand perfectly when you say that they have feelings. They know at some point, they still know that something is wrong, but they can't tell.
They can't verbalize and they can't say what is wrong. And I think that is one of the hardest parts for family members.
For the family member as well.
I think that's the hardest part because I think, especially with women, again, coming back to women. Now, I've worked with families, and again, going back to the whole gerontology term, I always like to insert that I work with families and not only patients or persons that
it's diagnosed something.
Because family care, integration of family care is really important when that type of care is concerned. Because if the person is feeling like they're losing their grasp on reality, you need the family there to reinforce them and to tell them it's okay. It's okay if you don't remember at this point in time, And one of the things I also encourage is not to ask questions that they clearly will not remember. Rather, what you can do is have a conversation with them that will jog their memory, and even if it can't, it comes like a form of storytelling. So you can tell them stories, although they are engaged in it and they were involved in it, but you turn it into a storytelling way. So that way you eliminate the hurts, the embarrassment, and the feelings of me trying to remember something that I clearly can't remember. It eliminates that. But again, coming back to the family aspect of the care. Now, communication is something that I stress on a lot. If you follow my page or read the post, I always say behavior is language. Communication is something I stress on. And when a person is unable to communicate with a person who has Alzheimer's or communicate with someone who has dementia, it becomes equally hard for the family member because now that is where the isolation comes in. Now, let's think about it. You invite me to dinner. Your mother has Alzheimer's. Your mother walks up and down. She probably takes off her clothes. She would make inappropriate remarks. She may blurt out stuff, probably embarrassing stuff. And me as the person who is not used to it, I am thinking this is such an awkward situation. I don't even know what to say.
Right.
I do not know what to say. And so what do we do as humans? We tend to stay away from awkward situations, that's all. So now I am no longer coming to your house because your mother is there and I don't know how to engage her.
Yes.
And so you see how the isolation starts. from a woman's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
It starts so simple because persons do not know how to communicate. They don't know how to engage the person. And so they think, well, rather than me learning and talking to her, talking to my friend about it or asking her, I may just ask her now, how you going? How so and so going? How your mommy? Everything good? How you coping? But really in the back of your mind, even if the person is telling you how they coping, you can't say nothing, because you don't understand.
Yeah.
And now that woman is isolated. And you see it goes back again to lifestyle and society factors. And what happens when that woman is isolated?
Yeah. So you talked about, I think you briefly mentioned preventative measures, if there are any. One of the things that stood out for me was you saying that simple checkups can point us to deficiencies that could probably later lead on to the onset of dementia, Alzheimer's or whatever. What other preventative measures do you think as women outside of, or is it that self-care just encompasses everything that we need to do?
I think,
is there anything else?
Well, let's see how I can tie it in. Now, everything would ultimately tie into self-care, ultimately. But there are different things under self-care because some persons think of self-care is a manicure and a pedicure and a day at the spa, somebody massaging your face, but that's not self-care. Self-care is mindfulness.
Yes.
Right? Mindfulness of triggers, mindfulness of environment, mindfulness of who's around you, mindfulness of how you react to certain things. That is self-care. Now that it can be a preventative measure, and I'll explain further why. Now, if you are in a situation as a woman where you know you clearly cannot handle certain things, I think it's within your right to remove yourself from that environment where you cannot handle certain things. Back to, you were mentioned putting the person in institutionalized care. Right? That could be a method of preventative measure for you. Why? You do not have the emotional and psychological stress, and therefore you are eliminating a part of stress from your life.
Right.
So it is not a bad thing to eliminate anything that causes you stress, that can lead to heart disease, that can lead to you adopting other different habits, because when we stress, we do strange things. And we don't pay attention to it. I could share a secret of something very strange I used to do, and I only realized while I was studying, that was about 5-6 years ago. It was because of stress. I was eating soap. Yes, I was eating soap. I was stressed. I realized when I'm happy, I am okay. And as soon as I'm in a situation where I think I'm overwhelmed and I have too much to do.
You've been vulnerable, my dear. Thank you so much for being vulnerable.
Yes, no, because I know, and people tend to hide these things, and I try to do not hide. Get help.
The situation, yes.
Do not hide. There are so many people going through the same thing as you. You wouldn't believe. You would not believe there, and there could be someone who would go through and can help you. Someone would have gone through the same thing and something would have worked for them, and they would say, hey, well, I tried this and it worked. Probably you can try that. So there's, to me, I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with being vulnerable. Telling people that you went through things.
Yeah, because the idea at the end of the day is not about telling your business. If the person who is on the receiving end wants to go do that, well, fine. But your aim is that you're trying to help others to understand that, hey, you're not alone.
Of course.
There are others of us who are, Of
course, we do strange things. And so the reason I was so open about that is because I realized when I'm stressed, I was doing things that was harmful to me.
Yes.
But again, I didn't make the link until later on. That's further down long time. But my point is, as women, we may think we're handling the pressures of life fine, but there are little habits that we do when we get in certain situations that we need to pay attention to. So again, preventative measures, eliminating stress, and of course, if you cannot care for the person alone, then of course you seek help. Personally, exercising is something that we advocate for. Brain health, doing puzzles, complicated puzzles, the Sudoku puzzles, that is so hard. But anything complex to
Right.
your brain that can help prevent Alzheimer's. For instance, if you are a right-hander, sometimes you can try writing with your left hand.
Something
You
as
will find
simple as that.
something as simple as that. And it's difficult sometimes, to be real honest with you, because it looked like what we would say, with some scrap or belly writing. That's something we used to see when we were smaller. But it looks really scribbled like a toddler learning to write. However, simple things like that, giving your brain that type of exercise and challenge can be a preventative measure. So we have puzzles, we have cardio, we have running, jogging, walking, reading the newspaper daily. That can help. It helps you because it keeps your brain and your mind active. So those are some things, that anything that can keep your mind going.
Can I say that it seems as if reading is on decline?
Yes, but we don't read a lot. I don't know why persons now.
We don't have the time. There's too much of things happening around us, and we don't have the time to settle down. But I mean, if it's even for 30 minutes,
But
dedicate that time to something like that.
Jacqueline, I never think that there could be so much things going on, because even if you're not reading, like literally reading, you can listen to the newspaper. There's audio newspaper, there are audio books and stuff like that. When I go to sleep, I listen to my audio books, and it gives you, although sometimes you're not reading, but you're listening along and you're taking in, and your mind is going. They say when you read books, you're in a different zone all the time, which is true. But there's so much things going on. I think, if you can't pick up a book, you can, listen or something.
It goes back to what you said. It's all about being mindful, and knowing what is good for us.
Definitely. Mindfulness is key. And it's not selfish to tell someone, I can't do it, I don't know how to do it, I don't want to do it. Sometimes we don't know how to say no, so we tend to make up excuses.
Yeah.
I don't make up excuses. I'm just like, nah, I can't do it right now, but I'll let you know if I can. You don't really owe anybody. As women, we always like to cushion the blow, because we don't want people to think that we are so heartless or we're so mean. So we want to think we're nice all the time and say, I can't do it right now, and giving explanations. No, you don't have to. You don't have to.
We have to be comfortable with saying no, and we have to know that it's okay to say no.
Correct. So again, back to your question, those are some of the things that we can do as a preventative measure. Of course, if you have the gene, then that's something totally different. But we can prevent the gene, because they said that sometimes with the hereditary, they test certain genes. I think it's an MSE or MRSE gene or something along the lines of that. Gene testing is not something that we do in the Caribbean because it's very expensive. So it is not to say if my mother or my grandmother have it, I am going to get it. Sometimes a younger person would get it and the parent never even had it. So there's no way of saying it's hereditary. And again, it's expensive to test. So we're just looking at ways to prevent it. That is what.
So awesome. This is so awesome. So you spoke about the caregiving part of it. And I want us to kind of speak to that, and how can we support persons who are giving care to persons living with dementia?
Right. I love that question. You ever heard about ghosting in relationships?
About what? You're a little bit low.
Ghosting, like...
Oh, ghosting.
You have a friend and then suddenly you just don't talk to the person anymore.
Call
it thing.
Okay.
Right. I would use that term now and bring it to caregivers. Don't ghost your friends who have a family member with Alzheimer's. And we tend to do it, not that we want to, but as I said earlier,
Right.
because of the clear barrier where communication is concerned, we tend to stay away from things or people that may make us uncomfortable. And if we're doing that, it means we're isolating our friends and we're not giving them support, right? So don't ghost your friends. Or what you can do is learn more about it. Ask the person more about it, and if they don't know more about it, seek more information. So that way you are going to the house, you are giving them support, or you can give them some coping strategies, clear coping strategies, or strategies that can make sense for the person, you know, based on what they're going through at the very moment. Remember the factors that we spoke about. We speak about the anxiety. We speak about the societal effects, the demands of the job. We speak about the burden that they would face, where financial burden is concerned. We speak about the family issues. And so those are the different pillars that the person is dealing with. And as a friend, if we want to support someone, support a caregiver, we have to know we're supporting them because they're experiencing these issues, and the support has to lie within those issues. And so one of the way of dealing with that is understanding what the person is going through, asking a question, learning about dementia, finding out more about it, and don't make it an awkward situation where you're scared to ask about it because you think the person may feel ashamed, or the person may feel, you know, bad and don't want to speak about it. Most of the persons I have met, sometimes a simple hi, how are you doing? And they start to go off because it's like they've been waiting for someone to speak to.
And to just show some compassion.
Compassion. How are you coping with this? This must be a simple question. How are you coping with this? This must be so difficult. And make sure and let the person know I'm not experiencing it, but I would imagine it's difficult for you. How are you going with this? Simple.
How I can help you.
Simple. You know, what I could do to help you? Could we go out sometime? Do you have someone there that could, you know, watch your loved one while we go out for some coffee, go to Starbucks, go somewhere, go and watch a movie, have a girls' night, some kind of something, you know? It doesn't mean when you're isolating a caregiver who's caring for someone with Alzheimer's, you are further throwing them down into the abyss.
Into the deep. Yeah.
This is what we're doing. And so I can't afford to do that. No woman must be left behind. We want to create a network where persons feel comfortable in opening dialogue, speaking about people, speaking about their loved ones, that says, my grandmother has dementia. Right now, we hide.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. I can't, I mean, I understand privacy. I'm not telling you to tell every single person, hey, you know,
I think it's probably like a stereotype, you know, a stereotypical view of how we see certain things, you know. For example, mental health. People don't want to talk about mental health because they feel like if they talk about mental health, it means that something is amiss. Yeah, something is amiss, but you still need to get the help. But it doesn't mean you're crazy. Anybody can have a breakdown. So
of course.
Same thing. We all go through experiences, and nothing is wrong because we have some kind of control, but it all comes with education, which is what we're doing right now. So if we don't have the education and we don't do whatever, it happens.
Of course. And
I can't be blamed for that.
We have a thing here, whereas, well, I did what was it? I think it was a podcast recently. And one of the things I was speaking about is denial with dementia diagnosis. And I always need to go all out with a topic like that because
I can imagine.
Hiding is not helping. I am not telling you, tell everybody you meet. However, seek the person. Just like if you are sick, you would seek a doctor.
Right.
If you have a particular type of illness, you will seek a specialist, not so?
Right.
This is something where you seek a gerontologist. This is something you would seek probably a geriatric physician. Seek the person that can 2 or 3% of mental health, you know. I mean, we all have mental health, we all have mental wellness, we all have, and so at any point in time we can get mentally ill because we have mental wellness. And the line between mentally ill and mentally well is being in a zone where you know how to balance your life.
Yes.
It's simple as that. And if we don't balance, sometimes the stresses can get to us and anything can happen. So there is no need to hide anything, especially as a woman who is struggling. What I can say is get somebody confidential if you still have reservations, and learn more about what you're dealing with. And let someone like a gerontologist guide you onto what to expect so you can know how to deal with it when it comes.
Okay.
That advice I can give.
Okay.
It is
and
very
it is sound
important.
advice. It is sound advice because it doesn't make sense for us to keep it inside and not get treated, because what happens, it gets bigger and bigger until it's out of control.
Correct.
So, all right, so we're at the end pretty much. Do you have any final thoughts on the matter?
Well,
what I want to ask you is that vitamin D deficiency that is
yes. Yes, it is.
You can text that to me after, but
I actually did a while last year while I was in St. Vincent teaching the same workshop, and when I came up to that slide, everybody was like, vitamin B? Everybody was like, and ironically, we had, well, it was a full house and there was one meal in the entire
wow.
One meal in the entire attendees, one meal, and the majority of the women, they were caregivers. So you see, we are seeing the statistics. I teach geriatric nursing at my institute, and the most meal I've ever had, most ratio, I think I had 2 to 12. So I had 12 females and 2 males. So for whatever reason, women are always on the forefront where nursing and caring is concerned. So it's equally important when we throw ourselves out there that we step back and we take our time to care for ourselves the way we want to care for others. Because we can't pour from an empty cup. But in closing, what I would say is I want everybody to understand or get an understanding of what dementia is. It's not going away. It's now termed as a chronic illness. Many moons ago, everybody was afraid of cancer. I mean, we still are, but when we look at the cancer, we're speaking about cancer. Persons get old, they die of cancer. Now persons are dying of dementia, Alzheimer's, and it's something that's not going away because there is no cure. Just like it is not going anywhere because we do not have a vaccine as yet. And it is growing steadily, it's rapid, and I want to advocate for everyone, caregivers, especially family persons, seek help, seek a gerontologist within your area to help guide you, put together care plans so that you can work with a routine that can help you, minimize the stressors, right? In addition, persons in authority need to work together and come up with some national plan on addressing this. Dementia-friendly communities is something that I'm working on in Trinidad as we speak. It's a lot of traction because a lot of persons are speaking about the youths, but we have older persons that we need to pay attention to just as much. The older persons in authority, I want them to put together an NCP, put together a national care plan for the age population and persons who are suffering with Alzheimer's. Put together a plan, come together, put some policies in place, especially for family members who have to go through the ordeal of splitting themselves 4 or 5 different ways and, providing care for a loved one with Alzheimer's. So these are the 2 things that I wanted to leave the listeners with.
Okay, awesome. But I just remember when I was introducing you, you mentioned in your bio that you developed a behavioral approach to dementia.
Yes, I
And
do.
just in a minute or less, just tell me what that is about, and then we'll wrap up.
Sure. So I would have mentioned that one of the clinical manifestations are the behavioral issues, and that is where everybody has the challenges with. And I've learned over the years working with those persons, the behavioral approach is one of the way to have the person comply with you and to basically get them to do what you want to do, but you give them the control. So the behavioral approach is about giving the patient the control, but more or less doing what you want, but they think they are in control.
Psychological thing.
It's a psychological kind of reverse psychology thing,
Yes.
but it works because we have
to
the
do what they have
anger.
to do.
Yeah, we have anger, we have anxiety, we have aggression. Those are the 3 A's that accompany Alzheimer's and dementia diagnosis, and those are the behavioral challenges. The mood swings, these are the things that the caregiver or the family has to deal with, and those are the reports that we get. Anytime we get a new client and I ask, what are the challenges you're having right now? I can't deal with the outbursts. I can't deal with the mood swings. I can't deal with the behavior. It's challenging. And so that caused me to pen the behavioral approach.
So is it something that you teach? Is it a course that, how is it accessible?
I do workshops.
Oh, you do workshops.
So I would do workshops within different islands or within different communities. I am in the process of penning it as an ebook, and I'm also thinking of doing it as a webinar where persons can have access to it. Right. And so they could purchase it, review it, try the techniques, and of course they will have it to work with if they don't want to pay to have a specialist on board, you know. So I'm in the process of doing that, but for now, because of the issue with me being unable to travel to teach it, and of course with social distancing, I'm now forced to convert it digitally.
Okay. So quickly tell the viewers how they can find you on social media. Okay,
I am pretty easy to find. You can find me Simone Blackwood TT on Instagram, Simone Blackwood TT on Facebook, Simone Blackwood TT on LinkedIn, Simone Blackwood TT on Twitter. So I'm really easy to find. Just typing my name.
Simone Blackwood TT. The TT is for Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes.
Awesome. Simone, I want to thank you so much for coming on and bringing awareness to this topic. I've learned so much, and my fear has been somewhat alleviated when I said to you that, boy, I'm forgetting stuff and I'm wondering. But it really is a serious topic that we need to put out there, and I know you're doing a tremendous job where that is concerned. It's just that sometimes when something is not in the forefront, people don't really put too much emphasis on it. But that I came across your page, I said, no man, this is something that I know can affect women, and let's talk about it. So I'm very excited that you came on, that we have some information, and for those who want more information, they can reach out to you. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline. You take care.
No problem. I will keep in touch.
Yes, we will.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, Simone.